Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into a seriously powerful back-to-school address that focuses on the profound responsibility of being a student. We've got a lot of fascinating ground to cover, exploring how individual effort shapes not just a personal career, but the entire future of a nation. But to kick things off, let's start with a very early, and I mean very early, wake-up call. Imagine this. You're a kid and your alarm goes off at exactly 4:30 in the morning, every single weekday. Ouch, right? The speaker shared a story from their own youth, living overseas in Indonesia. You see, his single mother didn't have the money to send him to the schools where all the American kids went, but she was absolutely determined that he wouldn't fall behind. So her solution? She decided to teach him those extra lessons herself, right before she had to go to work. Now, naturally, like any normal kid, he complained about waking up in the pitch dark. But his mom, she wasn't having it. She'd just give him a look and deliver this exact line. "This is no picnic for me either, Buster." She firmly reminded him that success requires shared sacrifice. She was putting in the grueling work, and he was expected to do the exact same. Which brings us to Section 1, Overcoming Early Adversity. The core message here is absolute proof that your starting point in life does not dictate your future. The speaker faced very real disadvantages. His father left when he was just 2 years old, leaving him to be raised by a single mom who really struggled at times to pay the bills. He even points out that his wife, Michelle Obama, had a similar story. Neither of her parents had gone to college, and they certainly didn't have a lot of money either. Yet, through intense hard work, both were able to overcome those hurdles and attend the best schools in the country. The big takeaway? Circumstances like a lack of money, a missing parent, or an unsafe neighborhood are massive challenges for sure, but they are not excuses for giving up. Moving right along to Section 2, Your Education, Our Future. This is where the narrative really zooms out from personal struggles to a massive, collective, national responsibility. Because guess what? Your education isn't just about you. Everyday subjects are directly tied to the nation's future. You might think science and math are just boring formulas on a whiteboard, but they are literally the exact tools required to cure diseases like cancer and AIDS, or to develop new, world-changing energy technologies. History and social studies, they give you the critical thinking skills to fight poverty, homelessness, and discrimination. And that creativity you build across all your classes is exactly what's needed to launch new companies and boost the economy. The adults simply can't solve these difficult problems alone. They desperately need your developing intellect. And that leads to a very firm, totally unapologetic argument. The speaker states that if you don't do the work, if you quit on school, you aren't just quitting on yourself. You are actively quitting on your country. Neglecting your education deprives the entire nation of the specific talents, ideas, and problem-solving skills it needs to actually move forward. Let's pivot to Section 3, Redefining Failure as Fuel. There is such a sharp contrast between fiction and reality when we talk about what it actually takes to succeed. TV loves to sell us this myth, right? This idea that you can be rich and successful without putting in the sweat, that your ticket to the top is through rapping, playing basketball, or starring in reality TV. But the gritty, unglamorous reality is that being successful is just plain hard. You aren't going to love every subject, you won't click with every teacher, and you certainly won't succeed at everything on the first try. It requires intense hard work, practice, and a lot of studying. To really prove that success isn't instantaneous for anyone, the speaker drops this highly specific number: 12. That is exactly how many times J.K. Rowling's first Harry Potter manuscript was rejected by publishers before it finally saw the light of day. Just think about that for a second. 12 rejections for what became one of the most successful books in human history. And hey, it's not just authors. Take a legendary sports icon like Michael Jordan. The guy was literally cut from his high school basketball team. He lost hundreds of games and missed thousands of shots during his career. But he didn't let those failures define him. As he famously pointed out, his ultimate triumph was a direct result of failing over and over again. So, we need a complete reframe of how we view mistakes. Failure is just a teacher. If you get a bad grade, it absolutely does not mean you're stupid. It simply means you need to spend a bit more time studying. If you get into trouble, it doesn't mean you're inherently a bad person. It means you need to try harder to make good choices. Nobody is born being a natural at everything. You have to do a few bad drafts of a paper before it's good, and you have to practice a math problem before it finally clicks. All right, on to Section 4, Actionable Steps for Success. Now we're moving from big picture theory to highly practical steps you can actually take today. Remember, nobody writes your destiny for you. You write it yourself by setting goals. And they can be beautifully simple. Make a commitment to do your homework and spend a little time reading every single day. Join a debate team, run for student government, or volunteer in your community. Decide to stand up for kids who are being bullied so that everyone has a safe environment to learn. Even just taking better care of your physical health makes you sharper and more ready to learn. By committing to these daily actions, you are actively writing your own future.
Of course, along that journey, you're going to hit roadblocks. But the speaker heavily emphasizes this point: seeking out a trusted adult, a parent, a grandparent, a teacher, a coach, is not a weakness at all. It's a sign of immense strength. It shows you actually have the courage to admit when you don't know something, which is the necessary first step to learning anything new.
Which brings us to our final part, Section 5, Writing Your Own Destiny.
It is so crucial to understand your individual place within the larger story of the nation. The story of this country has never been about people who just quit when the going gets tough. It's always been about people who keep going. Young people, students sitting exactly where you are today, have continually pushed the nation forward through every single era of history. 250 years ago, students just like you waged a revolution and founded a nation. 75 years ago, they overcame a massive depression and won a world war. And just 20 years ago, students founded companies like Google, Twitter, and Facebook, completely changing how human beings communicate. They did all of this by taking their education and their potential seriously.
As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a profound question straight from the address. Your family, your teachers, they are doing everything they possibly can to provide the books, the equipment, and the support. But you have got to do your part. So what problems are you going to solve? What discoveries will you make? You have the tools right in front of you. The only question now is, what is your contribution going to be?